I didn't actually find out that there were survivors, any survivors, let alone all survivors, for like 45 minutes. Yeah. Everyone else, like, yeah, people up in the break room watching TV, like, that's amazing. And it took like 45 minutes for someone to say, hey, you know, someone should probably tell Patty that everyone survived. Yeah. But everything was going really routine and no problems at all. The weather was good. So it was really, it caught me off guard when the emergency did happen. I was, you know, sitting back, departures were coming out once every, I don't know, like maybe minute and a half, so it was a lot slower than normal. And it's one of those things where guy takes off, or the flight takes off northbound. I just try to turn them left on course, something I've done a million times, so it's like you're not really thinking much about it. And instead of getting a normal read back, that's when he told me that he hit the birds and he lost thrust in both engines. Now the weird thing about this particular emergency, because I've worked a lot of emergencies in my time, and you could always tell the severity of the emergency through the pilot's voice. A lot of times, like, the worse it is, you can hear the tension in his voice. In this particular one, he actually sounded surprisingly calm for what he was saying. You know, if you can imagine if say someone's wife got shot, and the guy calls 911 goes, oh yeah, you know, I think my wife got shot, you know, that's the kind of impression I got out of the emergency. So it was kind of like a little bit of a mind fuck, you know, that what he was telling me was bad information, but you didn't hear it in his tone, you know. But obviously when you say you've lost thrust in both engines, it's a dire situation. The whole time I think he was thinking about going into the Hudson River, but because I've never dealt with something like that before, my end game was going to get him on the runway. Any runway available in New York, the metropolitan area, there's several airports that are close. LaGuardia was the closest for him initially. But he told, you know, when he told me he couldn't go there, he asked about Teterboro next. Tried to give him several runway options into LaGuardia, and that's when he told me that he wasn't going to make any runways at LaGuardia. What about off our right side is at Teterboro Airport? And I was like, yeah, that's Teterboro, do you want to go there? And that's when he said yes. Now, in talking to him afterwards, what he really was doing is he was keeping all his options open. He wanted to make sure every option was available for him. I thought, like, to me, as I'm working, as things are progressing, I'm assuming, okay, you're asking about Teterboro, that's where you want to go. So I hit the line at Teterboro, and I hit the line, like, we work with this TED with this, gotta be like, I don't know, 60 different areas that you can communicate with. And a lot of times, like, Teterboro is not one that we use often. Like, you have the ones that you're punching all the time. So under normal circumstances, you'd say, okay, I need to call Teterboro. You'd look down and be like, okay, there it is, boom. But I don't know, because I was so hyper-focused for whatever reason, it was like I hit the line so freaking fast I wasn't even ready to talk. And another interesting part about that was the fact that when I called Teterboro, I called myself Empire. Empire is a feeding position. My mind went from departure, instead of saying I'm LaGuardia departure, I said Empire because my mind went to arrival mode as opposed to departure mode. So that's why I was like Empire, LaGuardia departure, got emergency. And I actually worked over in Newark prior to coming back to LaGuardia. So I worked Teterboro Airport, I worked Newark Airport. I was, you know, intimately familiar with their operations, which is kind of weird or creepy in a way. I'm the only guy, controller in LaGuardia, that had Newark experience. So I happened to be the one sitting there that day. So I quickly coordinated to get him into runway 1, and I left the mic hot so that the tower could hear what I was saying to Sully at the same time. The advantage is the tower could hear it in real time, what's going on, what he's doing. The downfall is it's harder for me to hear what Sully was saying because the mic's constantly hot, if you can imagine hearing like with an open line. So when he said he was going to make it, he was going to be in the Hudson, I legitimately didn't really hear what he said. Like, I kind of did, but I didn't, and it was half like it was hard to hear him, and it was half that like I just didn't want to believe what he was saying. Because to me, the fact that he was going to make a runway, he was going to do this water landing, I thought that was a death sentence for everyone. I thought, what I envisioned was he was going to go down. I don't know if you ever saw that Turkish Airways one where they tried a water landing and the wingtip touched and the thing started doing cartwheels. That's kind of what I envisioned was going to happen. So I thought there was probably going to be maybe a couple survivors at best. Not everyone was going to survive. Almost didn't sleep at all for like 2 weeks. And it was interesting talking to Sully and Jeff Skiles. They experienced the same exact thing for about 2 weeks. Because the replay's constantly going over in your head. Mm-hmm. You just can't get it out. It's like an endless loop that keeps going on over and over again. I mean, I just sat there mostly in disbelief and just like, and then you start replaying it over and over in your head. Was it something? Could I have done something different? I mean, of course. I mean, you're involved. What I thought at the time was probably the worst aviation accident in recent history. I know I'm going to be scrutinized, and I'm like, did I do everything right? That's all I could think about. And God, I couldn't imagine, like, prior to this happening, you compartmentalize everything where there are blips on the radar scope. I know I have to keep this blip away from that blip. And you don't personalize it. You don't think about who's on board or how many people are on board. You just know what you have to do and you do it. Now, because every year I get together with these passengers, we talk to each other on Facebook and stuff like that. It's kind of hard for me to block that portion out, that there are people on board, especially knowing and interacting with survivors of a plane crash. So that makes it a little bit more difficult. But on the whole, I do feel much better. It probably took me a solid year to feel normal again, where I wasn't like every departure like, please don't hit birds, please don't hit birds. Or the first emergency I worked afterwards, which was nowhere near the severity. My heart was racing a lot more than it normally would have. There was just a smoke in the cockpit. You just want to return. I mean, you heard the stress in the pilot's voice, but compared to losing thrust in both engines, on a severity scale, it's much lower. So we got them right back in, but at the same time, it's like, oh no, not again, not again, not again, So I got 10 more years. I just want to make it 10 more years without another incident, if that's possible.